my name's Mark, call sign G1DX, the real one, not the one that was on the cluster the other day. And today we're just going to briefly look at the Kenwood TS-890S, which is a bit of a follow-on video from what Tony did a few months back on the TS-590S, and whether that was still relevant for today. So the TS-890S, what do I like about it, and who would it possibly appeal to? I think just by looking at the screen already, you can say that this radio makes no apologies for being a radio and doesn't hide the fact that it's a radio. It has no less than, because I counted them, 72 buttons and 13 dials. So it's an extremely well presented fascia and user interface, and it's nice to operate a radio that has a lot of things to touch and feel. The first thing that impresses the 890 to anyone that comes in the store and uses it and touches it is just the sheer quality of the user interface. I don't know if it comes over on camera, but even things like the buttons here, the knobs, sorry, they almost feel like they were cast back in the 40s out of Bakelite. They are smooth, they are quality when you operate them, and as you can also hear, it has built-in audio description as well, which is all part of the deal. You really get the feeling on this radio that you're flying first class, and all the options that you could possibly want are actually on the radio. So in no particular order, let's just have a little look-see at the radio. Now, probably the standout feature, well, it's one of many standout features, one area of the radio that really just gives you a taste of what's in store for you when you own one of these. Last video I did was on the Pannel, and I was telling you how amazing the graphic equalizer is, and it is amazing. Well, Ken would have taken this one step further. So just to give you a flavour, on the Kenwood, the graphic equalizer, the Anan had a 10-band one. On the Kenwood, 18-band, that's 1/8 band graphic equalizer on both the receive and on the transmit. So if you can't get your microphone to sound good or your receiver to sound good with 18 bands of graphic equalization, one has a bit of an issue. But that just gives you a flavour of how absolutely lush this radio is. There's no cheap rent here at all. We'll just go back to the band scope. The other thing about this radio, if there are elements of the Yaesu transceiver or the ICOM transceivers that you like, many of those features are fused together in the Kenwood. And I'll give you one example. A lot of people, when they review ICOM transceivers, mention how they like the way the dial works when you tune. It accelerates. If you turn it faster, it rapidly accelerates so you can whiz through the bands. Well, hello, Kenwood have had that for ages, and you can also adjust how quickly it starts accelerating and by how much, all completely user adjustable. So if you like that feature and that's a must-have, this has got it on there. The other feature about this radio is because there's a lot of real estate on the front screen, and because Kenwood are not working to a price when they design this radio, they're literally working to a specification. You can tell it's all over the radio. It has the most buttons and knobs of any of the flagship radios that are currently in production. There's very little of this radio that's driven from the touchscreen. It's either driven, it's driven by a physical button or a knob. Now that's maybe a nice to have for someone that's sighted, but for those of us ham colleagues that are partially sighted or unsighted, the more buttons there are, the better, because they can feel their way around the radio. And we have one particular customer that has a TS-990, and how he operates the radio, I still think is amazing, but he operates that TS-990 utterly unsighted, and I think that would be impossible for him to do if that was say a modern radio that was touchscreen driven. The other thing that gives you a little bit of indication that this is a modern radio is that it also includes the 4-meter band. For some people, that can rule out their one particular flagship radio that doesn't have that feature. The other thing is about the design of this radio. There's the SDR radios, and there's the super het radios, and there's the hybrid SDR radios. Well, this is not described in the Kenwood literature as a hybrid SDR. It's designed as a double down conversion super het, but it's absolutely a fusion of SDR technologies, digital signal processing, and super het technologies. So this is very much state of the art. It's not retro, and it's not super modern. It's state of the art. When Kenwood designed this, it's obvious that they didn't want to throw out their several decades worth of design know-how, so they fused that with some SDR technology. Another thing this radio will do, if you own a TS-590S, you can slave it with this radio, so very much you'll have a dual transceiver, dual TX, dual RX setup. But if you didn't have a 590, you might want to, for instance, drive another SDR. It has the buffered RF outputs for a receiver, and using something like OmniRig, you can easily slave the two together and have dual receivers if that's what you want. Another feature of this of the Kenwoods, and particularly on this one, is really nice, because people look at the ticket price and they initial reaction is, oh, it's quite expensive. Yes, it is quite expensive, unapologetically so, but something that you can add to the justification is if you want to remote control this rig, really easy. Firstly, it's got a built-in Ethernet port, so you don't need any options there. Secondly, if you want the software to remote control it, oh, that's all included. No more to play there. So this comes out of the box ready to remote. So no problems at all using this remotely. Another nice thing about this radio, you want to encode or decode CW, FSK/PSK, no problem. That's all built into the radio, encoding and decoding, and you can do that via the USB ports on the front or the back. No problem there. Next to the TS-990, this looks quite small and compact, but it's not. This is very much a full-size radio, and when you pick it up, it feels weighty. Now, the reason for that is inside here is a custom design die-car chassis, and all of the active devices that dump heat are bolted to this huge chassis come heatsink. So the power transistors, the finals, the voltage regulators, all bolted to the chassis, and that chassis in turn is cooled by dual fans. So again the design, it's just belt and braces. The other thing that you can't tell from the outside is if you look inside this radio, the radio is built in Japan, but so are the components. So it uses top-end components in there. For instance, the band switching relays are either made by Omron or Panasonic, made in Japan. There's no outsourcing there. It's all pucker Japanese high quality components. Even the finals on this radio, they're actually rated at 200 watts, but they're derated for the specification to 100 watts, which this transceiver is. So you've got 100 watts of headroom to protect your finals on this radio. Yeah, the other nice thing about this radio, which actually my particular radio doesn't do, I won't say that which one it is right now, but I would like it to do it, is it has a CQ parrot on it. And by that I mean you can record your call sign on it. It will go into transmit, transmit your call sign, and then go into receive and stand by and listen for somebody to respond. And it will keep going through that loop until you key the microphone. Now, really nice on this, because this is a top-notch radio, you don't need any SD card to enable that feature. The memory's already built into the radio. You can see the record buttons here. So it's already in the radio. You can both not only record your CQ call on this, and you can have several variants of it for different bands, but you can also user define the transmit and receive time of each part of the CQ call. Very, very nice feature. You can record off air by pressing the record button. And again, you can do that without an additional SD card. Of course, if you provide an SD card or a storage dongle, you'll get more data on it, but it has a very nice sized amount of memory on the radio as standard. Yeah, again, it's only a small feature, but again, it just another indicator of the quality of the radio is if you've got a linear to key with this, and many of us have, you can choose 3 different methods of keying the linear. You can key it using the inbuilt relay. That's the really safe way. So I've got a pretty old linear. That's the way I'd key my linear, and you've got that relay isolation. Or you can have it key by going voltage up or voltage down, depending on the type of circuit that your linear requires. Also on the back is a D connector with all the CAT information on it. So there's absolutely no problem hooking this up to a linear that's got automatic band switching, as most of the modern solid state linears have. The other thing is the tuner that's built into the radio. It's specified as 3-to-1, but actually, it easily does its specifications, say no more. They haven't cut any corners on the tuner. It works really good. So look, I could go on for ages about this radio. For instance, even the roofing filters, just to prove that this is not a pure SDR. It has roofing filters, but I even like the roofing filters that they've chosen here. It's got 2.7 kilohertz roofing filters for SSB. For me, that's perfect. Some of the other manufacturers use a wider roofing filter, which I think's a bit of a shame. 2.7 is excellent, and then you can further reduce the width by using the digital signal processing, already part of the radio because of its hybrid stroke analog technology that's inside the radio. So now let's turn the radio around so we can look at the ins and out ports. And while I'm doing it, I just want to show you, remember I was saying it's all included? It's even got a handle on it. I know this is a minor thing, but certain radios, you have to buy this as an extra. It's already there. And so here we go. Hi, so we've flipped the radio round, and this is just a brief overview on what's on the back of the radio, because it's worth having a quick look at. So you notice you've got your 2 SO239 antenna ports, transceiving ports. They're switchable from the front of the radio. You've got a 10 meg reference port as well, something I did actually miss to tell you about. That's, for some people, very critical if they're operating, well, doing clever stuff like FT8 and they want it spot on. You've got a buffered receiver output port, so you could connect straight onto that into something like an SDR play, and no problems when you go into transmit. You won't damage the SDR play, and you do not need any other accessories, just a straightforward phono plug into the SDR play if that's what you want. Receiver import, so these are transceiving ports, but you've got another port here for just receive, again for whatever you want to do. That's a straight through antenna output port. The drive port, that's probably going to be used with a linear, though that is not the press to talk. That's not your press to talk button. A keypad. Now these are for accessories. Your both cat control, one method of cat control, and also your PTT line for your linear. Key in addition to the front for the for CW. You can have an external meter on here, an analog one if you so wish. Here you've got a USB port for various functions, but you've also got a USB port on the front as well, and another Type A port on the back. You've got your DVI display port, so if you want to hook up an external monitor to this, absolutely no problem at all, just plug it straight in. Your COM port again might be used for cat control depending on how you've set it up. External speaker, I think that's pretty straightforward, but critically it's got a built-in LAN port, so that would go straight into your network, and that's how you would do remote control. Of course, you've got your 13.8 volt power line in, common, same sort of connector that you'd see on a Yaesu or an ICOM, but also that means this radio is capable of operating out on the field on a car battery, and that's for your, if you're using some clever antenna tuning system from Kenwood. But here we go. I don't think many people need more accessory ports on that. So it might be a single receiver radio, but it's very much a flagship back end, if that makes sense. Of course, incidentally, it's got two VFOs, so you don't have a problem operating split. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to flip the radio around and give you a little look-see at how we operate it. So that's enough of me telling you how wonderful this radio is. Let's have a quick touchy-feely, and let me show you what this radio's like to actually operate. So there's a lot of things here that will be familiar to different owners of different brands. So first, tuning the radio. There's some interesting signals. No problem. It's got a touch-sensitive screen for tuning. So here, touch-sensitive screen for tuning. So that's one thing. I'm just going to switch off the over to a different band. I want you to hear the voice guidance. Voice guidance is on. You heard the voice guidance. It's getting annoying. How do we turn off the noise guidance? Very easy. You press the menu button, which is over here. You've got a very classic menu, very full, but we don't touch the screen, because if you look downwards you can see that the buttons are labelled and active, the buttons down there, so there won't be fingerprints all over your screen here because it's got physical buttons. So we want audio performance, so we'll select that, and you've got various options here. You can see I've got voice guidance enabled. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to turn off voice guidance, and now we don't get the announcements anymore. I'll go back to the menu top, and we're back onto the band scope. So we've now turned off the voice guidance. We've tuned into a signal. Oh, look, there's another one there. Press that. You can even have assistants tuning in if you want. But let's just turn that down a bit. But I'm going to now say, I want to make it sound a bit nicer. So I've got noise reduction on, just to prove to you. Sorry, I'm going to just turn off the noise reduction. So now just a couple again, sorry to keep going on about the clever bits, but the noise reduction on this, there's two types. There's IF noise reduction and there's AF noise reduction. So I'm going to turn on the IF noise reduction, which is very similar to the way the ICOMs sound. It reduces the hiss a bit, but leaves the voice integrity very much intact. Or there's the AF side, and as you maybe can hear, it can give you a slight goldfish bowling depending on the noise, but different noise needs different types of attenuation algorithm. But on this radio, Kenwood have said, oh, just give them both, and by the way, they're both completely adjustable. So no noise reduction, IF noise reduction. I can adjust the amount by just keeping the key pressed in, and now I can adjust the amount of noise reduction. So we have it about here, and I personally use the IF noise reduction the most because it has the least effect on the audio quality. Okay, now I want to let's just retune it onto a signal. Nice and easy. I want to equalize the audio. I press the RX Eq button. I keep it held in. It brings up the menu. Now you have some pre-selects, just like you do on a lot of stereos. You know, you've got rock, jazz, etc. Well, you've got high bass. Basically, they've got some presets. Or you can go into user. So you go into adjust, and now we're into the 18-band graphic equalizer. I can do things like select which band I want to boost up. So let's just say I'm getting on a bit, which sadly I am, and I want to boost up some of the higher frequencies. So let's go on the 3 kilohertz. Just something I'm going to point out here. It does go far higher, but of course we've got roofing filters here, and we're on SSB. So you know, if you can hear some 5 kilohertz information with a 3 kilohertz roofing filter, you're doing pretty good. But anyway, let's boost this up a bit. Didn't make too much of, because again we're right on the edge of the roofing filter. Let's try another band. Whoop, sorry, beg your pardon. So we're going to try and boost that up a bit. So I'm boosting up the 2.7 kilohertz band. So we're just waiting for some signals now to come up. There's another. So if you want that high-end punch, you can do that on the receive, and of course that's mirrored on the transmitter. If you've got, I'm now on the transmitter or equalizer, I can adjust the graphic equalizer on the transmitter as well. So if I've got a microphone that's a bit bassy, I can cut the bass down on the TX audio adjustment on the equalizer and get my voice sounding absolutely spot on. And then of course it's got an incredibly powerful spectral speech compressor to make that punch on SSB. So honestly, I can't think of a reason why you'd want to change a microphone insert, for instance, for a DX competition. There wouldn't be any point. Just adjust it on the graphic equalizer because it will sound just fine. Well, more than fine actually. So we're back here. To change bands, we can just use the band switches. So for instance, I go on there won't be anything on 7 megahertz because we're on the 40 meters because we're on the 20 meter beam. But if we go back to the 20 meter band, we're on the 20 meter beam here. Hence, this is what you can see. If we want to adjust the speed of the waterfall, we've got different speed algorithms. I personally like my waterfall quite fast. You can adjust the reference level. So if you want more on the scope, I personally like to keep the snow level fairly low, and so I get a nice highlight of the band scope. The other thing is, you'll notice maybe that I've got the attenuator on. That's because we're in a really noisy place. So I've got the attenuator on and the preamp off of the radio. But also, if you want to balance the two out more, there's also an attenuator for the band scope side as well. So the SDR that powers the band scope has its separate attenuator in addition to the main attenuator for the whole of the receiver. Which is a nice feature to have. You can adjust the span. There's different spans, so if you want to take a bigger chunk of the spectrum, you can, and look at greater chunk of it. But again, I just want to point out that when I'm operating the radio, you please notice that I'm using the buttons. I'm not touching the screen. Well, I can touch it to tune, but I don't touch these things. I'm touching real physical buttons. So just to conclude then, wrap up, because there are many very good reviews on the TS-890 by users that have had the radio for a year or so. I've had the pleasure of using the radio for about 2 weeks, and it's a really, really nice radio to use. It's the sort of radio, if I may, I don't normally do this on air, but I'm just going to switch it off. It looks good even when it's turned off, and I've tested this on people who are not radio hams. If you have a picture of me by this radio and someone somewhere in the future looks at it, it's obviously a radio ham, whereas some of the modern radios, you could be sat in front of anything. This is blatantly a radio. It has lots of knobs and buttons. It's lovely to use. It's lovely to look at, and it's got great fusion of classic and modern technologies in it, built by a team in Kenwood who are obviously working to a specification and were told to build on their existing years of manufacture. This is a radio, you kind of know that sometime in the future ham fair, 30 years time, somewhere, someone's going to have one of these, and it's going to be in somebody's cabinet along with some of the classic radios that we have here. It's just a super piece of kit and beautifully constructed. So if you want a first-class ticket radio with lots of features, you don't want to have to then fork out for lots and lots of aftermarket parts. Like I say, our package includes everything, even a hand mic. And, for those that need it, Mars is available on this radio. It is an absolutely super piece of kit and a radio that's built to last, and no doubt will. Do come in the store and have a go on our one with our antenna. Try out the dual noise reduction algorithms, the dual noise blanking algorithms. Try out the band scope, the way you can change things on it. You can change the meters. The synthetic analog meter really works just like a real analog meter. Have a look at the band scope, the way you can change the colors, the fact it's got built-in averaging. Again, some hams like that. I personally don't, but if you want averaging, it's got that. And you can see for yourself by looking through the downloadable advanced manual and geek out on that, because it's very well written. It literally, I can't think of any feature I'd want on this radio that in fact, it's got many more features than I'll ever be able to use. Enjoy it, and do call us up if you want to discuss this further. And thank you so much for tuning in. And if you buy this radio, we hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much.